So welcome back to Capital Academy. Capital Academy was designed to provide a platform that entrepreneurs and founders of early stage and startup companies could come and talk to us about their businesses. We generally have presenters from our Pitch Me to then come on to talk a little further, but this particular segment of Capital Academy is speaking with the panelists and investors relative to just their general thoughts in this area of raising of capital. Again, our focus is working with early stage and startup companies in trying to help them understand how to raise capital, what's involved. Security regulations are huge, and everybody knows about crowdfunding today, though everyone thinks crowdfunding is only centered around Indiegogo and Kickstarter. Well, Capital Academy likes to help you understand that raising equity capital is a crowd-funded mechanism these days. But what I want you to keep in mind is if a company is raising capital via crowdfunding, who's on the other side? It's a crowd investor. And so in this segment, we have Darrell Spears, who is an angel investor, and we have Pierre Walters, who is a crowd investor, though they both have their own companies, and we're going to just broaden the conversation in that context of business owners be involved in the funding, financing, but also the helping companies understand the things they need to do in order to not only grow their business, but also get more attached to capital. So with all of that being said, let me first allow Darrell Spears to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Darrell Spears. I'm an angel funder. My company is EliteConversations.com, where we provide business management consulting for business owners, in particular new business owners. Our target market are for business owners who make $50,000 or less. Not a lot of money, but that's 9 million businesses in the country, and 5 million of them are right in the DMV. So we know that there's a big need in terms of raising funds and also creating and making sure your business is prepared to do what it needs to be done to attract investors.
Thank you, Darrell. And Pierre.
My name is Pierre Walters, and I'm the creative director and senior director of a marketing firm and creative agency called Blue Artists. And Blue Artists is a creative agency that's dedicated to helping brands expand and supporting that expansion. One of the things that we really push, our mantra is building your difference, and we believe that doing so means effectively being able to communicate your identity, your community, who am I serving, and what's the conversation between those two pillars. So that's what we think a healthy brand is, and we believe that healthy brands are successful companies. Right. And if your brand is healthy, your company's healthy, you can raise that capital if you need it. So yeah.
So my name is Lorette Farris. I am the founder and CEO, though I really just go by the title business strategist of iBOSSinc. And iBOSS is the company behind Capital Academy, behind Pitch Me. I am a former investment banker, and what I like doing under iBOSS is helping companies to understand that this raising of capital that we're going to talk about is not only for those companies who's looking to raise that $2, $3, $4, $5 million. There are companies that just need to get to $25,000, $100,000, and they may be companies that are only going to go as far as revenue ranges of $1 million. Is there a way for you to raise capital in this space that you're always hearing about? Absolutely. And that is what is meant by crowd investing, but you just have to understand certain rules and regulations in order to do that. So Darrell, I know that the companies that you work with are on the smaller side. They're more the lifestyle or legacy type businesses. Mm-hmm. I would imagine conversations that you have with them, especially for those looking for capital, that for the most part, they think they can only go for a loan. If I'm wrong, please broaden that conversation, and if not, please talk to us about where that really stands, considering how many people get turned down for small business loans?
Absolutely, and first and foremost, I think that this is a great organization and a great way for business owners to even start thinking about funding. A lot of them are not thinking about loans, they're not even thinking about funding, they just start a business without even understanding what it's going to take to run that business. So what Julie is doing, the person, lady that was just here with iCare, is very smart, you know, upfront, knowing what your business is, but understanding what the funding is going to be needed and hiring the right person to put her in a place where not only will she be able to get funding, but her business will attract funding. There's a big difference in wanting funding and your business attracting funding. So is your business set up to get funding? Do you have your processes in place? Do you have your branding exposure in place? Do you have a team of people around you that can generate money so that investors like myself are excited about getting a return on their investment? Because I don't care how good it sounds, I don't care how great it is, I don't care what fundraising or whatever you're going to do, if I'm not going to get a return on my investment in a certain period of time, I'm not going to be interested as an investor, you know, bottom line. You know, I love the fundraising and you want to do smart things for kids and help out, but bottom line is how quickly am I going to get a return on my investment?
That's exactly right. And a lot of times people don't want to speak to me because I kind of lead with that because of what I do. Why would someone with capital, why would an investor want to put their money in you versus anyone else? How are you going to make yourself and your business more palatable? Because once you start looking to raise capital, you're no longer in competition with another company that does the same thing that you do. All of a sudden, you're in competition with someone who wants that same capital that you're going after. And making yourself look right is all about what you do here. So those same businesses, can you sort of speak to what you encounter or see with companies that you may know or believe are trying to get to capital and what you might have to pour into them and helping them understand how to look the part?
Well, you probably heard the term fake it till you make it.
Or lived it.
I want to point out that, you know, as an angel investor, a lot of the things that it seems like that you're looking for in a company, when you're determining, hey, am I going to invest in this company? I can tell you things I think about when I'm determining, am I going to invest as a crowd investor, are kind of similar to what a customer is looking at when they're deciding, am I even going to buy from you in the first place?
Exactly.
And I wonder how many small businesses even sort of realize that their customers are kind of like mini investors in their companies. So branding is really, really important. You mentioned that I think you said over $50 million worth of small business owners within the was it under $50,000?
Under $50,000, $50,000 or less.
Okay, and you said it was $5 million. Okay, I said 50. All right, and then you said a certain amount of them are right here in the D.C. area. Okay, how much was that?
That was 50%.
That was
like 9 million
almost
throughout the United States.
Okay, and almost 50% are right here in the D.C. area. Now, I wonder how many of those businesses are in competition with each other.
Absolutely.
And I wonder how many of them are doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, there's only so many things you can do. So how many of them are doing the same thing and they're in competition with each other? That's where branding comes in. Because branding is what makes me decide to buy Microsoft over Apple, or what makes me decide to buy McDonald's over Burger King, or what makes me decide to buy your company over somebody else who's doing the same exact thing. So when we say branding, we're talking about, and I think this is really important, not just what is the product you're selling, but why is the product, why does it even exist, and who are you selling it to, and why should I buy it? I think answering those questions will get customers mouth watering, and I also think it's going to get crowd investors and angel investors really excited about your business as well.
I will tell you, you don't know how many times I'm speaking. As soon as I say, you know, iBoss works to help companies raise capital, everybody wants to, oh yeah, I want to raise capital, right? But I think everything we're saying is talking about just that. It's one thing wanting to, it's another thing being willing to go through the process that's necessary in order to do that. And invariably, so many companies have almost the same line, well, I'm different. or, but I don't need that because I know this, this, and that. And sometimes, again, and not meaning to be harsh, but my answer is, but if you've been doing that for the past 4 or 5 years, and you haven't gotten to the capital you need yet, how can you continue to say what you don't need?
Ooh, that.
Right?
Yeah, that's the mind that got you here won't get you there.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, and you know, so oftentimes, and I had to retool my thinking at one point also, because when you come off of Wall Street, your thinking is not necessarily on the same plane with Main Street businesses. You're used to bigger numbers and think people doing things a different way. But in today's manner of getting to capital, it's so different today. Most of your investors are online. But so many people, there are 3, you know, and I'm giving plugs here, which they're not sponsors, but there are 3 platforms that anyone looking to raise capital should be on. That's AngelList, that's Gus.com, that's even Crunchbase, right? But what happens is everyone, because so many companies are learning about the raising of capital, they're rushing to put their profiles up, but they're not paying attention to a lot of what we're saying. What makes you different than the other company that you're putting up there, that's there? And again, in my world, it's not so much that you're in the same business, but if you're trying to raise $1 million and there's 15,000 other companies trying to raise $1 million, what is it that you're showing to make an investor look at your company as opposed to one of those other, and I'll take the number down, 1,500 companies. What are you doing different? What are you showing different? What can you tell them that's any different than what you're doing? Darrell, is there anything in your head that you could just say that makes a bigger difference for you, that's going to make you look at the company more so, whether it's their specific industries that's of more interest, or is there anything that you could share to any company looking to raise capital that would make you look at them as opposed to someone else that doesn't have that going on?
Yeah, the number one thing is, you know, whatever you're selling, whatever you're doing, looking at the organization, the infrastructure, and figuring out, can you do what you say you can do? You know, you can put it on paper, you can make it sound good, you can have your logos and everything, but do you have an infrastructure and people in place to do what you say you're going to do in terms of getting the revenue you say you're going to get? And a lot of times that's not, and that's okay. And again, I'm coming from a different, my target market are those solopreneurs, and they don't have a big budget. So because of that, they don't have a team. They're trying to do pretty much everything on their own, or occasionally they'll have family members come in and help them or whatever, just trying to get that done. And I understand the great service that you're providing, but we need to get businesses prepared to see you. And a lot of them are not prepared to see you. And I would even say, before you get to that level, angel investors want to invest their monies, but they don't want to work. We don't want to work for the money. We want to invest and see our profit in a certain period of time. For business owners that are in my market, small business owners, think about how you want to get revenue, but also think about the work that needs to be done. You might not be ready for an angel investor. You might get an investor that can also bring their talent to you as well. So they might not give you as much, but they're going to bring your talent. So now you don't have to work as hard because you're bringing in, you know, if you're doing cosmetics and you need a bookkeeper or an accountant, maybe ask them to give you some funds, but also bring their services, and we share the revenue in it. And that way you can build an organization and then be ready, so that when you're ready to see Ms. Farris and you're ready to go in front of angel investors, now you can say, hey, I have infrastructure in place and I'm ready to go to get those big dollars. But you have to really think about, are you ready and can you do what you say you can do?
It's so interesting you say that. Pierre and I just had this conversation, I forget this week, last week, but talking about putting together, and I call it your team of geese. But raising of capital, a lot of times, if you're trying to raise $100,000, 50,000 of that might be because you need to hire folks.
Yep,
Well, why not
exactly.
find someone who does what it is that you need, and now it's a sweat equity deal where they're getting some stock or interest in the business in order to provide you with the services.
Exactly.
And that's, again, a part of what I talk about in crowd investing is figuring out not only actual cash, but other means to get to the money you need. And Pierre, I know you have some experience in that part. So whether it's touching on what would you look at for someone to have an interest in putting anything into them, whether
Right.
it's cash or whether it's equity,
Right.
what would you be looking for in those companies?
Well, Lorette, I can say without a doubt that the number one thing I'm not looking for is a cool and interesting product. I'm not actually, I actually am not looking for how good your service is or how cool and interesting your product is, because everybody has a great idea.
Yes.
What I'm interested in is
Yes.
what is your conversation strategy? And again, when I said knowing your identity and understanding your community, connecting those two things, that's conversation. Another way of saying that is, what is your marketing strategy? Because let me tell you, I have seen people market mugs.
It's so true.
Let me tell you, this is a not a cool and interesting product.
The pet rock.
But the pet rock, exactly. If you can market
Absolutely.
it, you can sell it. And if you haven't thought about that part, then I really don't know if my money is safe with you or if my time is safe with you. So what I would caution small business owners and entrepreneurs and people when you're in that mind space of I'm thinking about my business and how I can attract investors. It's good that you have an idea for what your business is, but understand that without a marketing strategy, you're invisible. If a tree falls down in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did it fall? Did it even exist in the first place?
Right, exactly.
Was it a beautiful tree?
Right.
Nobody knows.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows.
Right.
So marketing, to me, having a solid marketing strategy is very important, and how unique is your marketing strategy. And we can dig into that if you want to, but for me, that's the first place I'm going. What are you doing in marketing?
So, and that means we're going to have to come back to do another episode like this because we're winding down our time. But this is what you just heard really speaks about building that team, because everyone comes to the table with a different perspective, and you need to hear different sides of what it is that you're doing, because everybody, you can find a team and each person should have a different expertise, because in building and growing a business, it is not, one directional. Every piece of what you heard just now has a different place. And I want to make that really clear, because my difference in when I'm looking at a company to become an advisor for them, I need to understand if they looked at their numbers. Because from my standpoint, if we don't have an idea of how the numbers will make sense in trying to grow a business, then I don't know what business you're going to have. And like Darrell was mentioning, my responsibility to my clients is to work at helping them raise capital. Well, if your numbers don't work, there's not a lot I can do, because I don't know many investors that say, well, yes, Lorette, I like you and your clients so much that we just want to invest in you.
Right.
No, they want to understand that the numbers work, that the marketing work, that you're in the space that you need to be in. So thank you so much for joining us on this segment of Capital Academy. And if you heard anything that you like, please make sure that you're sharing it with others. And if you would like to become and be involved in our pitch events or our Capital Academy, we look forward to seeing you. So thank you so much, Pierre,
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And
Excellent.
thank you so much, Darrell, for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Appreciate it.
And we look forward to seeing every one of you that are watching us right now at some point be involved in Capital Academy or Pitch Me.